If I can ask you now, on your bylaws, did anything change or did you just update it perfunctorily for the year?
It's gone, the common company's seen it 2 or 3 times, actually, they don't have those recommendations.
Go on, Trev.
that were made, put them in there.
Because I was looking at it going, do I need to read this and understand everything, or do we know what the changes were? So that's
It's
awesome.
pretty much the same, just that it's cleaned up, and then she recommended putting another on subsection, on the first section of K. I think it falls under.
Awesome. I might
Yeah,
ask
when do
you
you
that
wanna do
again when it's
trans?
time.
Public communication. Yes, because we're gonna need leadership.
For the appointment.
Trans.
Yes, for public communication.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Just hang out. Thanks for coming.
It won't be too long, I
All
think is
right.
what he's trying to say.
I'm ready. Brace
Ready?
yourself. It's gonna be loud in a second.
Okay.
All right, it is 6:30 PM in Reedfield, Maine. Let's stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. This is the Reedfield Select Board meeting for November 15th, 2021. Thank you all for being here. Item number, hey, Carol, item number 22054, the minutes and information from the November 1st meeting. I would entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the minutes from the November 1st meeting. Any more discussion? Carol, I know you're getting settled in, but was there anything with the minutes? All in favor? Tremendous. Thank you very much. Item 22055, we're reviewing warrants 19 and 20. And for these, we go to Catherine Woodson.
So let me scroll down through here.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Scroll away.
At least
I didn't make any special notes on this one. We made our first payment on our snowplow contract, which I believe was 30%, so that he can get started with costs for gearing up. And that will now be a payment for 5 months and then a small payment in May as a final payment after the work is completed. We paid $5,180. Sorry, that was for $54,858. We paid $5,187.50 to Hussey Communications. Eric, I don't remember what that one was. Do you?
Typically just radio communications equipment or tower work.
For the for the fire department.
Extra
Okay.
expense.
We made a couple of payments out for things that were approved by request in the town meeting. Kennebec Behavioral Health had their request for $1,000. We paid $11,046.50 for salt so that the road sand and salt can be ready for when we need it, which hopefully isn't soon. $288,602.91 to the RSU 38, our monthly obligation. And those are the big ones and interesting. So I would make a motion to accept warrants 19 and 20 in the total amount of $419,493.84.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept warrants 19 and 20 for the total amount of $419,493.84. Is there any discussion? Very well, all in favor? Thank you very much. All right. Next up, we have our select board communications. We've done about 5 minutes for this. If any members of the select board would like to speak, now is your time.
I'll start, if I may. We had our town election since our last meeting, and all of the articles passed, and the ones I'm concerned about in particular are the 3 broadband articles. Town meeting did authorize us to move forward up to and including spending the $5 million, which we did say we would not do without going back to another town meeting, a vote with specifics. But so that's definitely put us on a direction. Today, I spent another couple of hours reading through the 36-page RFP that has just come out for the fiber to the home network. And we'll be meeting on Wednesday afternoon to discuss that, and it should be published by next Monday. So we are making progress moving forward, and I'll keep you apprised as things happen.
Yeah, Ralph?
Is this going to be a discussion that will include the entirety of the original group, or are they starting to fall by the wayside?
So the WKLCBA is 6 towns, and 2 towns are not participating in the RFP. Right now, it is 4 towns: Reedfield, Wayne, Fayette, and Vienna. Mount Vernon is hoping to come along in the future, but they didn't get on board as quickly as they needed to with the preparation work. The timeline for that is that bids will be due back in the 17th of January, and we have to pick and accept a bid within 10 days, I believe it was, of that time period. So by the end of January, we'll know, what our options are and where we can move forward to. Or not move at all.
So we're going to accept a bid for a preferred provider without having perhaps the option of a public utility committee in place to manage the system?
We're in the process of putting the public utility district together. It's.
That's what this
council.
vote will be?
No. It's the preferred provider.
Okay.
And the public utility district is pending. The issue with that, legal counsel is ready to do that, which has been hired and paid for by the WKLCBA, some of which are funds that this board has authorized previously.
Yeah.
The problem is, to accept a public utility district, you need to have a town meeting vote. And to have a town meeting vote means we would have to have a special town meeting in all the towns. And now I don't think there's any town who's willing to do that ahead of their normal town meeting, because I believe 2 or 3 have town meetings in March and the rest of us in June. And legal counsel is very specific about not moving forward in creating the district without the actual town meeting vote, even though some towns, Reedfield being one of them, could do that. She doesn't feel it is the best and proper way to do it.
Wow.
So at town meeting, we would probably have 2 warrant articles. So something about the actual proposal and something about the utility district.
Sean, anybody else? Okay, moving on. Town staff reports. This is for Eric. We have 10 minutes for this, Eric. Begin with your treasurer's report. Treasurer's report.
Okay, so this report covers the month of October. We are currently in fiscal year 2021, 2022. Check reconciliation was completed through October 31st, and our accounts are in balance with our bank statements. All activity did appear normal with the exception of one returned check. Every couple of months, I might point that out, but it's very infrequent for us, so we're happy to not have that happen more often. The audit, we did select at the last or one of the October meetings, the audit firm, RHR Smith, to help us with our FY21 audit, the period that ended June 30th of this year of 2021. And so Teresa and I met with them, and we are optimistic about the relationship. They've worked with us for probably close to 10 years prior to our 3-year stint with Barry Talbot Royer, but we're happy to be back with them. And so we're expecting that we'll be able to meet the budget timeframes, having reliable information, in a time frame that actually helps the budget, which has been difficult because we're backed up because of our secret ballot process that we have to have everything done in basically March, and then we have just some delays in the past. So happy to see that moving forward. Bonding, we did receive the $395,000 that we were scheduled to in early November. I think that was November 4th when they released those. So So that's good to know. That's for the fire station library work and some paving. Retirement withholding began for the first pay period in November, which the work mostly happened in October. So that piece is just in its final stages. And we should be able to do the actual processing of that, excuse me, sometime this week. I had a little bit of coffee before I started. Didn't get it quite where it was supposed to. Excuse me. Comments. The report covers the month of October. I said that already. Revenue and expense should be about 33%, 4/12 of the year. Receipts are up for both the month and the year to date. Revenues reflect the same trend. There is some volatility there, some anomalous numbers. Things are always a little bit askew early in the year. Let's see. For the year to date numbers, things do look much more reasonable. Expenses for the month of October show an increase of over 40%, but that's primarily a result of a doubling up of education payments in the RSU and a full payment of the $319,743, excuse me, county tax. So those items come together and it makes a big year-over-year difference from last October to this October. So that is accounting for that piece. One thing that's worth noting is that solid waste expenses have been higher than expected, in part because we have a lot more material moving through the facility. And we are covering some of that with revenues from fees, but not all of it. So it's something that I won't say concerned about, but I'm keeping an eye on because we just have a lot of people bringing in a lot of waste. The economy's picking up and people have been bringing in a lot more material. So I guess that's a good thing, but it does affect us. So that really summarizes my report, other than to say that year-to-date expenses are down, but that's only due to the fact that we've had less capital expenditures. Otherwise, they'd be fairly similar to last year.
Ralph?
Me again. Could you talk, Eric, a little bit about the Kennebec Wealth Management statement that's in our portfolio?
Absolutely.
Vis-a-vis the fact that there are no requirements for municipalities to invest designated funds in federally insured investment vehicles, and what you have done to shift values here to be cognizant of the fact that the market bubble could cause a problem somewhere down the road. So we're protecting our equity position.
Sure. So generally speaking, there are very few things that we can't invest in. We can't invest in high risk assets or investment tools. But
Real
we,
estate investment trusts.
yeah, things like that. But we do have an investment policy locally that we use to guide our investments. So even though there aren't always restrictions out there, there's best practices. And we've adopted those as our guide for investing. What Ralph's referring to is our Kennebec Wealth Management account for cemeteries and cemetery perpetual care funds, things like that. And so we, over the past year, have seen phenomenal results in our large cap stocks, which are the higher risk, but still within the acceptable tolerances. And so we're talking yields of 20+%. And those got a little bit heavy in our portfolio because of that. And so we've worked with the report that you have shows that kind of heavy balance towards the large cap stocks. And so what we've done is work with our investment company to distribute some of that a bit more reasonably. So now we have more mid cap and small cap stocks. We have some more foreign investments and a better distribution that's in line with our local investment policy that we use to protect our money that we're stewards of. Does that work for you?
It works for me.
Try to
and
make
I
it as balanced as I
just-
could, but yeah.
Folks need to know that we are in the equities market to a certain extent with some town funds, and that there's a policy in place to protect that position.
Yes, and I will note, as I did sometime earlier, that we do have other town funds that we could be investing. And we're actually looking at how we might do that responsibly in order to maintain some flexibility with project spending, but also make the most out of the money we have in the bank. Because if we have, a $500,000, $750,000 investment that we could carry for a year or so, we could see some decent yields on that. But we want to make sure that if we do invest, that we do it responsibly. So that's something that we'll be talking about more in the future months.
Excellent. If there's nothing else, we can move on to the town manager's report, Eric.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. This one. Okay, I'll start with maintenance and infrastructure. Roadside and town field mowing is complete for the year to date. So we do pick up again in the late spring and do a spring mowing on those areas. But for the fall season, we've knocked everything down and it's all ready to be put to bed. And so that's a positive thing for our plow crews. Crack sealing was not able to be completed this fall, and that will be rescheduled for the spring. We had some issues with our vendor being able to get up here. Finding flaggers was a challenge for them. Also, we just haven't had the staff to really keep on it. So that's one of those projects where it needs to happen, it will happen, but we just haven't been able to exercise our full capacity because we don't have it. An RFP for consulting engineering design professionals for the proposed Search Road sidewalk will be developed in November. So as you know, that project was approved by voters and the grant money was accepted. So we're at the process now of needing to find someone to help us through this process to do the design work and make sure that what we have to present to folks is accurate and reliable so we can have a good informed decision process.
Has this been an extended timeline?
It has and it will be. We're not looking for construction to be complete for probably 5 years. We're dealing with federal dollars.
Yep.
We're dealing with an involved public project that takes some time to vet with the community and with affected residents. And we're dealing with federal dollars.
Oh, gotcha.
So,
Understood. Thank you, sir.
so
Continue.
It's a slow but thoughtful process.
Mhm.
Winter roads maintenance materials are fully stocked and John Cushing has all of his equipment and crew ready for the upcoming season. I have begun talks with the town of Winthrop about the possibility of having them provide some or all of our winter maintenance in the future years. This is one of the options that we had talked about because we're basically on our last legs with at least the local contractors we've been able to work with. There's not a lot of interest in providing that service, at least not at a cost that's sustainable for the taxpayers. And so we're looking at other municipalities as an option, but we also do need to, of course, put out an RFP and kick the bushes one more time to see if we can get folks, not for this year, not for this winter, but for next winter, because we want to make sure that come August, September, we're ready to sign a contract so that they can be ready in October to get this stuff happening. And perhaps sooner, if we're able to get this done in April, I'd like to do it then. But in any event, that's one of the things we're working on for that important public service. Most of the road work that we've been typically doing is on hold until we find a new maintenance employee. Critical items are being addressed as a priority. We sent Ben and our animal control officer out to unclog a culvert this afternoon, for example. So we're keeping things moving, but it's hard going for the time being. Excuse me. All right, Parks and Recreation. If you have kayaks at the beach, please remove them immediately. We had wanted everybody to be out by the end of October. We're into November. We don't want that equipment sitting down there through the winter. The annual trunk or treat at the fairgrounds was once again a great success. I think we touched on that at the November meeting, but I wanted to say again, thank you to the rec board and thank you for all of the people that donated candy for the kids. We probably had 20 pounds left here at the town office, and we're going to have it in that bowl out front for the next month.
There you go, Dennis.
Hey, I
So,
like it.
it'll be there for a while.
Should've
Everybody
been
was
tonight.
very generous with their donations. Thank you to everyone who participated in the fairgrounds workshop 2 weeks ago. We're going to talk about that a little bit coming up in the meeting, but I just wanted to say that it was a great start to discussing the use of that property. And I really appreciated the fact that we were able to engage key stakeholders and have a good discussion. So I wanted to point that out. Transfer station, we have a new collection bin for our food waste composting program. It's much easier for the staff to handle, a lot easier for residents to access and get into. It's basically an oversized drum with a special aerator on the bottom of it. So we're ready to continue accepting as much food waste as people want to bring in. Every pound you bring in and put into that bin will help save taxpayer dollars if it doesn't end up in the compactor going off to the landfill. So I'm encouraging folks to do as much of that as they can. We still have bins available if people want to get compost bins. We're ready to help with that. The second door at the transfer station building has been installed, and we expect trim in the next few days, any day now. And I want to thank Ralph again.
No pressure there.
Want to thank
Same with
Ralph
that.
again for helping to move that one along because it's hard without having a full staff. Administration and personnel, I want to thank everyone involved with the November 2nd voting. Residents, staff, volunteers, and the Kents Hill School were all phenomenal. Just exceptionally well-run event. And it's always good to see people come out and vote. Applications for the animal control and maintenance positions will be accepted until filled. I am sad to report that Shereen Gilman will be stepping down as our clerk. But I'm very pleased to announce that hopefully, if the select board goes along with it, that Kristen Parks will be stepping up to take the position of clerk. And she has been with us for over 6 years now and an exceptional resource for our town. And I'm really thankful and excited that she's willing to step up into this new role and take advantage of that and serve the residents in a different way. So we are now hiring for a collection clerk, again, if everything goes to plan tonight. The town office, transfer station, and library will be closed for the afternoon, the day before Thanksgiving, that's Wednesday. Thanksgiving Day and Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, we will be closed for those holiday days. So I just want folks to be aware that you might want to think about your planning as far as vehicle registrations, things like that, anything that needs the town office or the transfer station. And the last item I have is that the planning board did deny the application for the community center club at 26 Mill Stream last week. That was actually the day after the election. It was a busy week due to several unmet conditions. And a key finding was that the property cannot be developed due to a higher impact use due to the fact that it was asserted to be a residential use in order for the barn to be built. So the barn they're now asking to have be turned into a community center was only built on the condition and the expectation that it would be used for residential purposes. So that was a key finding out of their decisions. They had a several page finding of fact, and that was included with the select board packet. But despite the fact that we have a pretty conclusive position here that the building and project can't proceed for a number of reasons, we are still expecting litigation. And so I wanted to make the board and the public aware of that and just make a public request to the applicants and to Mr. Bitar to please not waste tens of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money by filing another lawsuit. We've been down that road before. It didn't work out, and I don't want to see that happen again. Our town deserves better and the taxpayers deserve better. It's just we're kind of at a loss as to what to do now because this just continues. And again, I'm just politely requesting that Mr. Bitar and the applicants think about that before they take the steps that they're preparing for. So with that, I'll end my town administrator's report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Ralph?
Is there a time frame for the appellants to appeal?
There is, they have 30 days.
Okay, so 30 days from last whenever.
From the 4th.
From the
yes,
4th,
yeah,
okay.
or was it the 3rd? It was the 3rd and 4th. yeah,
The third would be Wednesday.
the 3rd, yeah.
Thanks.
And that's appeal to whom? To the
Well,
appeals board?
it could be appealed to the Board of Appeals. However, it appears as though they're appearing prepared to go to court and bypass the appeals process locally, or to do both. It looks as though they're looking to try to file a discrimination lawsuit against the town. And so I want to just make people aware that that's a possibility, and that we hope that doesn't happen.
Ralph,
Can they go to the Superior Court to start the process without first going to the local appeals board?
For a discrimination lawsuit, yes, they can.
Okay.
And what would the discrimination basis be, as it's been stated or as known?
They have made a statement that it would relate to the fact that the applicants are proposing an LGBTQ club. And so that is the basis, as I understand it, for their preparations. And this is documents that we received from Robert Bitar and from the applicants. Nothing formal has happened yet. That's why I'm trying to get out ahead of this a little bit and just ask community members, ask Robert himself, ask the applicants to, let's not do this. Because it's not the case that there has been any discrimination. That's not how anybody in our town operates. And I think it would be a pretty wasteful process. I'll put it like
Ralph?
that.
One, for me, final point, there are other community-based facilities for an organization such as the one that has the lease with Mr. Bitar to avail themselves of here in town, correct?
There are several, and there are several other uses of that property that would not be more impactful than the current residential use, including home occupations. We don't need to get into all the other things that can be done there, but the issue is that the item that was proposed well, there were several, but the key one was that it was much more impactful than a residential use, and there was no question about that.
But Ralph's question was, are there other spots in town that they could have that same?
They could use
Use.
Agile Hall. This building is available on a regular basis. They could talk to any number of other nonprofits.
Okay,
They could build a building someplace else. There's lots of options.
okay, thank you.
I
Carol?
have a question. So I noticed this is also at the end of our agenda. Is there a discussion going on later, or this is it?
This is a heads up because there's really been no action other than the planning board issuing their findings of fact and some posturing, I guess is the way I would put it, by the applicant and the property owner.
I'm aware of certain things that have come up that were like new. And as far as I understand, hadn't been talked about until recently, something about a resource protection district. I know it seems like some of this might affect other property owners,
I don't
other
believe so.
potential businesses. I don't
yeah.
understand where that came from or what that is about.
Well, it's actually part of the reason that when Mr. Bitar applied for his barn and it was only allowed to be used as a residential structure 5 years ago or 7 years ago now, is because it was in the resource protection zone. He knew at that time and affirmed at that time that his building was in the resource protection zone. And the condition for allowing that barn to be built was that it could not be modified to become more than what it is currently. So Mr. Bitar has been fully aware of that condition and has just chosen to ignore it, as he has several other conditions and overtures from the town to try to resolve this in a reasonable fashion.
Okay, it just seemed like the rural residential was brought up all the time, but I hadn't heard this one brought up until recently. So I just did, okay, it sounded something new, but apparently not.
It's been there for a very long time, just like this issue.
Yeah.
I know there was something else about from a remote parking spot, a safe passage to the barn.
Yes, and that was one of the things that was discussed as part of their proposal for the Safe Space Meeting House, which it was a new application, so it was treated as a new application. And the issue there was that our land use ordinance requires review by the fire chief to ensure safe access. And his review found that, and I agree with it as road commissioner, that road is not truly safe or passable, especially with vehicles parking along the side, pedestrians going to and from a parking lot that's a satellite lot. And so that condition was discussed during the planning review process and was requested that it be addressed, and it was not.
So is that something that could also be requested from other potential businesses down the road if they have a remote parking lot?
If they have a remote parking lot, potentially, but public safety is paramount, and it's a big part of the review process. And so when you have a dead end road that turns to a quick sand, a quagmire in the spring, it's not built to be heavily traveled. So we have to look at all of those conditions. It's narrow. Part of Mr. Bitar's septic system actually encroaches into the right of way for the road. And so it's very narrow in that area. And so those conditions were looked at as a way to protect public safety on a substandard lot. And that's one of those things that we typically do, is when we see an issue where something is not safe, we try to put in conditions that will help make it safe in order to protect the public interest.
So is there any potential business that, or is there a max of how many vehicles can be parked on this resource protection district? I mean, it
Well,
just
so
sounds
parking
like,
wouldn't be allowed in the resource protection district, and it doesn't cover the whole lot, but there are, without looking at individual types of uses, there are literally dozens, if not 100 different uses that could be allowed down there if we had an application that was complete, accurate, and compliant with the land use ordinance. But there are literally dozens. I mean, it's kind of not a running joke, but every time I think of something new, an artist studio, we could do a glass blowing shop down there. We could have, a canoe builder. We could have, there are many uses, including as a residence, that would be permissible down there with no modifications to the property, or minimal, or modifications that could be accomplished should somebody choose to take those steps.
so is mostly maybe the number of attendees with their vehicles on that property that was kind of the,
You should review the findings of fact by the planning board. I don't really want to get into all of that. I wanted to provide it more as a
Yeah.
point of reference.
Yeah. No action has been taken yet, though, right?
The planning board did.
Yes.
I mean, no,
Yeah.
on behalf of the,
They have not filed suit yet.
okay, that's not,
No, no.
okay.
excellent. All right, are we all good with that? All right, super. Eric, anything else for yours?
That's it.
All right,
Yeah.
then. I'd like to move on to boards, committees, commissions, and departments. We had some very nice minutes, robust minutes from the Conservation Commission, Library Board, and the Board of Assessors. Thank you, everyone who submitted those and for review. And we appreciate staying up to date. Any questions, anything anyone want to say? Excellent. We come now to public communication, and there is a public here to communicate. We have invited Travis Magnuson, who is the coach of the Maranacook girls soccer team, who recently won the state championship. So it's a big deal for us. It's a big deal for Travis and the school and our neighborhood and community. Travis, if you'll go to the podium. You have to be seen on the Zoom here. And as I understand it, there may be some players out there in Zoom land. So Bill, I don't know if you see a profuse amount of participants, but just know that we're here. So Travis, take it away.
Awesome. So I did write a few things I wanted to share. First off, Dennis, thanks for inviting me and the team here. I think it's really important for the town to know the quality of our team and the importance of sports in our community. So our program's kind of been building towards this for many years. And it really, our accomplishment was more special because I really feel like we do things the right way as well. But this season and playoff run, I think will be one of the highlights of these girls' high school careers. And there's lessons that they learn being on teams that, they just don't get sometimes in school as well. So it makes it a great experience for them. So now a little bit about the team. So our team won the first girls soccer state championship in the history of our program. And the program has been around for 40 years. So that shows how good, one, our team was and how hard it is to win a state championship in soccer in the state of Maine. So we were Class C state championship. They work so hard to get better during not only the season, but many of them spend hours in the summer in different seasons training on their own and getting ready for the season. Our team went 16 wins, 1 loss, and 1 tie, which was also the best record in school history. We were the KVAC champions, the Southern Maine champions, and of course, the state champions. We scored 86 goals and only gave up 9 all season long. And our defense did not allow a goal in the last 8 games, including the 4 playoff games. The kind of highlights, we beat our rival Trape 1-0 in an exciting Southern Maine final. And then we beat Bucksport 5-0 in the state championship. And that team was undefeated and they had outscored their opponents during the year 137-9. So it was quite an impressive win for us. The last 2 things I'd like to share, I'd really like to thank the towns and the community for an unbelievable support throughout the year. We had great crowds for our home games. We went all the way to Presque Isle for the state championship, and it was a remarkable crowd. It was a 4-hour drive. I did not expect to see many people. We had a lot there. And then we were welcomed back with a huge parade. There was one of the biggest parades I've seen for high school sports, and it was really cool. And our team really appreciated it. I lastly would like to thank the players. The players on our team are incredible. If you have seen us play at all, they're obviously great on the field, but they're also great in other areas. We have the president and vice president of our school on our team. We recently had a bunch of players selected to All-Stars, and we had 8 players selected to the All-Academic team in our conference as well. They're just a great group of girls that work extremely hard and they care for each other. And it was, for them and for all us coaches, one of the best experiences we possibly could have because they were such a special group. So I just wanted more people to know that as well. And I really thank you for letting us have the time to share about our success and our season. And now when you go into school, you'll see the first goal ball for girls soccer. So thank you very much.
Congratulations. Well, I appreciate it, Travis. I think it's fantastic, and I think it's a good. We're always a proponent of what's best for the town, what's best for our community, and how we work together. So I'm glad you're one of the coaches in our school. So, and not only a resident, a teacher at the school, and a coach. It's like a real part of the community. So we'll also take public comment from anyone else who may be on the Zoom. Bill, if you have any of those folks, let me know. Otherwise, there may be folks here in person who may want to speak. Okay. Well, if you're on Zoom and you want to talk, now's your chance. Just unmute and go. Otherwise, we're moving on. And thank you very much. We move on to appointments, reappointments, and resignations. I believe we have some folks in the audience who are here for that tonight. Item 22056, consider the resignation of Lisa Garside from the Conservation Commission. Is there any?
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Lisa Garside from the Conservation Commission effective immediately.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the resignation of Lisa Garside from the Conservation Commission. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much. Consider the resignation. This is an item I was dreading. 22057, consider the resignation of Shireen Gilman as town clerk. Shireen, we appreciate everything that you have done for us. It was great to know you. And I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Shireen Gilman as town clerk effective November 19th.
I'll second that. Sorry to see you go, Shereen.
Oh, I agree. Yes, ma'am. It has been moved and seconded to accept the resignation of Shireen Gilman as town clerk. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? With regrets. With regrets. Now, item 22058 also made me feel very excited. Consider the appointment of Kristen Parks as town clerk. This is fantastic. I think it's a natural sort of thing. Eric, do you want to talk?
Yeah, just briefly, I wanted to say that this, I said it earlier, I want to say it again. I'm really excited that Kristen's stepping up into this. She's so good with our residents, so good for the town, has a lot of connections and is very good at her work. So I'm excited to see this. One thing that I wanted to mention also is that I will be, or I'm planning on appointing her as registrar as well. That was something that I had forgotten to put on here because we were focusing on the other pieces of this. Again, this is one of those positions where I make the appointment, but the select board confirms the appointment. Same thing with animal control, but I just wanted to make everybody aware that these things were happening and of course, get the buy-in from the select board. So I will request that if you do make a motion, that it would include Kristen's being appointed to a position of registrar and clerk when the time comes.
I'll make a motion to appoint Kristen Parks as town clerk and town registrar,
I'll happily second.
effective
Sorry.
November 19th.
Eager.
Right,
We can do the 20th, but
The 20th.
yeah, that'll be fine.
effective November 20th.
We'll do the midnight 12:01.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. It's been moved and seconded to appoint Kristen Parks as the town clerk and registrar effective on October 20th, November 20th, excuse me. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Hey, congratulations, Kristen. We are now to item 22059. Consider the appointment of Eric Johnson as animal control officer. Eric, are you here?
So Eric is not here, but
Okay.
he he's the guy that has the alpaca farm down on Church Road.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
most people know about that,
Yeah.
and he does have quite a bit of experience with animals. So
He has the what? I'm
the
sorry.
alpaca farm,
Yeah,
yeah,
By the meeting
yeah,
house.
no,
Alpaca bag.
Yep.
yeah.
yeah. And so he was willing to step in and take on that position, and he has to do some training, of course, as we want all of our key officials to do. But he seems very eager and capable, and I'm excited to have him on board.
Very well. I will entertain a motion. Oh, Ralph.
Just quick question.
Yeah, buddy.
What's the training regimen include? Because ACOs have a lot of responsibility in terms of infectious diseases. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be on his plate.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, the state has a training program that he can fold himself into. Is there a timeline and a certification process that comes with this appointment?
There is. He has 6 months to complete the phase 1 training, which is, thanks in large part due to COVID, available online. It is online training. It's fairly complete and thorough. It's not an easy lift, but that's one reason why they have 6 months to do it. I'm encouraging him to do it as soon as possible because it is available, on demand. Then he has to do a in-person training to complete the second phase of his certification. And after that, on an annual basis, there are certification credits, retraining, and other activities that are required to keep the certification, not just being out in the field. So it is very much treated by the state of Maine and by the town of Reedfield as a professional position.
Great. So, but with his appointment this evening, he is at least allowed to assume the position with the proviso that he completes.
Absolutely, and we
Okay.
still do have some
So
backup.
we will have an
Yes.
ACO.
We will, yes.
And Eric, is that paid time training?
He right now has a stipend, although that's a good question. I'd entertain that discussion with Eric. But if the board feels that it would be, it is tricky because it isn't a stipend position. So I would think probably not, but that's something we can look at.
Knowing what the stipend is, I would feel that at least for the interim, that would be sufficient. But budget's coming up, and this could certainly be reviewed at that time.
Sure.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion. Can I make this one?
You can
Yes.
go for it. Yes. Oh, yeah, get in there.
Like to make a motion to appoint Eric Johnson as animal control officer. Is there a date on that? Is that November 20th?
It would be it's effective. Let's see what
Yes,
I have here.
it's-
Today's date's fine.
It's until June 30th.
Yeah,
Okay.
Next
Today
year.
through June 30th. Yep.
Active today, 11/15 through June 30th? Okay. I'll second it.
2022. Yeah, actually, second. Great, excellent. And it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion about this appointment? Very well. All in favor? Thank you very much. Now then, we have our next appointment, 22060 is considered the appointment of Alfred Parks Senior to the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee.
I know him.
I believe Al is with us tonight. If you'd like to step to the podium, sir, please. So we can hear you at home. Listen, we're trying to remember, we had a request from a member, a citizen to make sure we're speaking out and people can hear us. So make sure we're projecting. So that's why we like to do it. We also you look great on camera, Al. Quite honestly.
All the time anyway.
It's so true. It's so true. And it's always easy to spot you. So that's good to know. You guys have any questions for Al? I'd be, Catherine, you are on that committee.
Thank you for volunteering. I guess the first thing is just if you could say a couple words about why you'd like to join the committee.
Well, the main reason is that obviously I'm in the recycle business. And I figure my expertise in the recycle business, people I know may be of some help to the town. And I'm willing to share that.
That's great. And the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee, at least on the Reed Field end, will be very happy to have another member because we've only had one for years. So now we'll have two, and that's awesome.
Fantastic.
So thank you very much for stepping forward.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Very well. Let's do
I'll
it.
make a motion to appoint Alfred R. Parks Senior to the Solid Waste Committee for a term beginning today through 6/30 of 2024.
I'll second that one.
All righty. It's been moved and seconded to make this appointment. All in favor? There we go. All right. Congratulations. All right. We move next to the appointment of Tom Labrie to the Recreation Board. Is Tom Zooming or is he going to be here, Eric?
Tom did say that he would be participating via Zoom if he was available.
Okay.
He is.
Hey, Tom.
There he is. All right.
There he is.
Hello, hello.
Ground control to Major Tom. Thank you very much. We have you here. I think
He's behind it.
I don't know if it's at this point, it's like a house of mirrors, but Tom, if you can hear me, just say hello and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why you want to be on the rec board.
You got it. You got it. So thanks for having me. Name's Tom Labrie. Sorry, there's an echo, so I can hear myself talking to you.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
But I've been in the community for 2 years. I've got 3 younger children, ages 11, 7, and 1. Been around sports my whole life. My kids all play sports, so it was a natural fit to join the rec board, and I'm happy to do it.
Well, we appreciate you taking this step and coming forward to help people. Thank you very much.
I make a motion to appoint Tom Labrie to the Recreation Association from today, 11:15 through 6/30, 2024.
Second.
3-year term.
I second that because I could do that. It's been moved and seconded to appoint Tom Labrie to the rec committee, or excuse me, the rec board. Is there any further discussion? Oh yeah, go for it.
I just want to say, Tom, I appreciate the fact that you got that spread of kids because we know you'll be with us for a while.
Yeah, a long time.
I'm not
You're in
going
for a
anywhere.
year. This is a commitment, buddy.
I'm locked in.
That's great. Well, I hope they also golf.
Connor does.
Yes, absolutely. So any further discussion? Very well. All in favor? All right. Thanks again, Tom. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Yes, indeed. We go to old business. We have 20 minutes in the agenda for this. Item 22051 is a second full reading of the revised board, committee, and commission guide of Reed Field. Essentially, the in a nutshell version is this is essentially an overhaul and a sort of just a dust up of the boards, committees, and commissions that exist in Reed Field that operate here. It's a comprehensive guide in case people are looking for information about whether or not the Solid Waste Committee has a new member, et cetera, et cetera. So just to do a little bit of a nutshell on that. But Eric or Catherine, I know you guys have been doing the majority of the work on this. I'd gladly listen to you.
Well, Eric, why don't you go first, and then if you leave anything out, I'll pick it up, hopefully.
All right. So we did have a number of changes that were proposed in the first two readings that we've had. Those have been incorporated into this. There are a few areas I think need clarification, and I'll touch on those as we go through them. But we were able to incorporate in some form all the changes that were suggested by the select board. The one area I'm trying to get down here. Here we go. All right. The one area that that I feel we hit a bit of a snag on was some of the very first language in there about committee qualifications. And so Catherine raised a point about the legal legality of either requiring everybody or not requiring anybody or some mix in between to be a US citizen to participate on these boards. And I know we did have some initial discussion on that at the last meeting, but I did talk to Maine Municipal Association and got some clarification. It is an area of ambiguity. They recommend, and we can talk about how to implement this with our policy here, but at a minimum that every board that is required, or commission or committee that's required under state statute or any kind of other federal or state regulation, that those members be sworn in, and that those members would be considered municipal officials, and those officials are required to be US citizens. So the two that come to mind, first and foremost, are Planning Board and Appeals Board. But also our Conservation Commission is established by state statute. So those three at a minimum, and the Select Board, any municipal official elected is also requires to be a US citizen. And so those positions are ones that we would be required to have US citizenship for. The ones that we could be more forgiving or not have that requirement for would be things like ad hoc committees. And really the distinction that was drawn was any committee where someone doesn't have to take an oath, which would be any committee that's not established by statute. So our rec board, for example, our library board of directors, those type of groups, we could have anybody on if we chose to. So that's the answer I got from MMA, which I found to be quite helpful in clarifying. My first pass at that one particular item of interest was to just kind of leave it blank or leave it ambiguous, but that probably wasn't the right approach. So that does need to be revised and revisited, but at least now we have some information to do it in a way that makes more sense. So
My
that's the first point.
Yeah, my request to Eric for that, just so everyone understands, is I don't have any big deal about whether it's there or not there. I have a really big deal that what we do follows state law.
Yeah.
And so as long as we're following state law, I'm happy with having it however, and I think that's a great way to do it, is to state the specifics that are required.
Yeah, that to me, that makes sense. And I wonder if that's something we also add to our form, right? So that maybe the boards and commissions forms have to be delineated a little bit. So if you're applying for boards of appeals or
Planning board,
boards of appeals, planning board, and conservation commission, that's a separate application maybe compared to our other form that we just looked through for Tom and Al and such.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
or just make a separate line that says, if this application is for
Yep.
XYZ, are you a US citizen?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
leave blank.
is there any other pieces to do with that? Or is that the only piece?
That was really the only piece. Other qualifications or requirements, the board has full discretion.
Okay.
The other piece that we did talk about that was relating to qualifications was the piece about mental or physical disability. And that one I did pare down and kind of reshape to be saying that the select board had the option to disqualify anybody who didn't have the ability to perform the duties of the committee, commission, or board. And so that's much more general. I did add the piece without reasonable accommodation or something to that effect,
Exactly.
so that it's consistent with standard hiring and other practices and I think civil society, that we're able to help people if they can meet the requirements, but if they're not able to do the job even with the requirements or with the accommodation, then it would just be an unfortunate situation where they wouldn't be eligible, and that would be up to the board to decide.
I think the wording on that piece is slightly off. I want to stew on it a little bit, to be honest, because it
Sure.
doesn't read correct to me.
Okay,
And I read that a lot, that part, so I'd like to just look at it and,
can I ask,
We have to read this over
yeah,
again
yeah,
anyway.
exactly,
Because
yeah.
of this piece, and there are a couple others that he's gonna get to, so it's no problem.
yeah.
We want to get this right. if we're gonna
Yeah, I
do it.
agree. I just think it doesn't flow, but
the qualifications paragraph in general or the particulars?
the one the select board may exclude from consideration any applicant unable to perform the
Okay.
duties of the appointment with reasonable accommodation. I don't think that, I think that sounds backwards to me.
Yeah,
Well,
there's
feel
probably some
Feel free to
syntax
give
there.
Eric a
Yeah.
I'm going
suggestion,
to.
because I do that freely, and I say, if it's of any help to you, how about this? And then
Yeah.
he is always clear to say, no, or thank you.
I don't
Ralph
have
has his
pages.
Oh, I didn't see it. Ralph, go for it.
So on page 2, item number 2, exclusive of planning board, board of appeals, et cetera. Will that language stand given what you have laid out for us in terms of giving the select board latitude to appoint based on some level of discretion? Or does that have to be adjusted as well?
That, that would need to be adjusted. And I
Okay.
think that it's appropriate to probably reference state statute and then have our own internal list. It's like when you write a
Okay.
will, right? You want
Because
to,
I wouldn't want
be
to.
general and then have a
Yeah.
specific list off to the side.
I wouldn't want to take away the discretionary function that the board has
Absolutely not. Yeah.
beyond statute. Okay, thanks.
And my question on that is the resident status. I mean, I understand there can be a multitude of situations where it would be nice to have someone who's not a resident be on a committee or commission.
That already exists.
Okay, if it already exists, it's in violation of our policy,
Yeah.
because our policy says that can't happen. And so we should rectify that. And I think we're okay as long as once you're aware that something exists, that you take steps to bring it into compliance. But I think we want to really think about that and talk about it, because there can be competing interests, having someone from a neighboring town wanting to participate in forming the way our town operates. On a legal basis, you can't do that, as noted in those particular committees. If all the other committees are considered advisory, then, we have to decide if that's something that we're interested in.
And I would say for us, if we have to look at some of these boards a little bit more individually too, and how that might look. And I think obviously my experience with recreation, we have many people that live on the line that have, superintendent agreement, their children go to Reed Field and they're gonna continue to go to come here, and they're doing all their sports and stuff, and it makes sense that they're assisting and volunteering. So I think we need to look at some of those applicants individually.
For each committee. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, is there anything against having like those things separated for like a separate application? Just, I mean, it's a little extra work in the front end. Go ahead, Ralph.
It was my understanding that there was some latitude allowed, specifically age-friendly. For example, we have a member of the board who's the secretary, who used to live here and lives in a budding town now. Would hate to lose her. And if, I can't remember the section where I read through, but I thought I recalled seeing something that said that the select board had some latitude in terms of taking that into consideration for various boards and commissions, when you had someone who had a connection but didn't necessarily live in the town. And I would hate to preclude people of ability and willingness to serve when we all know how difficult it is to find people to begin with, to just say, sorry, you're on the wrong side of a line, you can't serve. So we
Yeah, I
need to be
think-
very careful how we build that in.
Eric, go ahead. I
Well,
think
so
you're.
to that point,
Yeah.
that second item that you referenced, actually, it's been modified slightly, but that was in the original policy. So we did,
Okay.
the board
We did.
did have that discretion in the older, in the
I would
older
like to
version.
But I
make sure.
think it said it was for ad hoc committees.
That might be
In
the
in
case.
the old language
Yeah,
it had,
yeah.
so those are committees that are set up for a very short period of time, generally a
I
year
see,
or
yeah.
less. And are not standing committees,
Mm.
and
But I think we're going to be.
you could, and I'm gonna just I think that's an awesome reason, and that may be why we end up changing it to this, but I think you also have to be aware that you could have someone from a neighboring town who wants to be on a border committee, who gets appointed and then is there just to be a rabble rouser and is constantly disrupting the work of the committee.
It can happen, but it also happens internally when you have somebody who lives in your town.
Yes, but at least then you feel that it's okay because you have a stake in it.
But that's why we're the
And so
vetting board.
I'm trying to go on both extremes here so that we can just be aware of what could happen
Mhm.
and see which one outweighs the other. And as long as it's legal, I don't.
Yeah,
have
and
a
I also
particular
think this is
opinion.
a great reinforcement of the fact that like, if you, like Sean has said that, take a look at this, make sure you go through this and say, if there's something that stands out to you, ask Eric about it. It's the best way to be able to say, because he knows more about it than any of us.
I would suggest that as long as we are in statutory compliance, the board should be allowed discretion to make appointments based on merit.
As a sort of catch-all.
Indeed.
Okay, well, that's
Which
Does
means
that make
that,
sense?
right, because then the ones that are listed can't be. The four that Eric named couldn't be, but the others could be based on, I like the based on merit piece. You know, that there's a consideration given, not just because I'm from Winthrop and I want to participate in Reedfield.
true, Dan.
You know, I'm from Winthrop and I used to be involved in this professionally, or I used to live in Reedfield or something that brings value.
We are the vetting authority. As long as we don't preclude options to put the best people on boards and commissions that want to serve, we should do that and not limit our choices within statute.
So why don't you give Eric a suggested sentence tomorrow?
I'll stop by after I trim out the
Excuse me,
doors at
sorry,
the
Carol
transfer
has some-
station.
Carol, go ahead.
Just miscellaneous questions on the boards, if I can. I noticed the planning board is the only one with the 5-year term. Has that always been the case?
As far as I know, I don't know what the deal is with that. It could be in state statute. I'd have to look at that one, but I don't know how long that's been that way. That's what it is currently.
Can I speak to the history of why that is?
Sure.
If you give us the cliff notes of it.
From my experience.
Yes, sir, go for it.
There's a steep learning curve here.
Yeah.
It's like being on the Board of Ed.
Yep.
You don't want limited terms in terms of compressed timeframes. You want, and the terms, of course, are staggered, which they have to be. You want to have people that have some basic knowledge, but then grow into the job. And you shorten those terms, you limit that ability. So I believe that's why pretty much across a lot of states in New England, in my experience, some of those land use boards have extended terms in service. And again, they are staggered, so you're not giving up everyone all in one fell swoop. But that's my understanding as to why they are longer.
That's what I thought might be the case. The enterprise committee, which I guess I'm part of, has no meetings planned that I could see, and I'm not sure what's going on with that committee.
Sure. So it's,
Anybody?
they meet as
Oh, that's
needed
good.
to review applications for the Reedfield Enterprise Fund. So it's a fairly narrow directive that was given by the select board to administer that fund and to advise, they do advise on matters of economic development on occasion. But basically, it's driven by whether or not we have somebody applying for one of our $5,000 to $10,000 zero interest loans. And I'll just use this as a chance to pitch that for anybody that's in Reedfield or has a business in Reedfield that is a business owner. We do have available $5,000 to $10,000 loans at zero interest. So.
And one last thing, the comprehensive plan committee are always meeting by Zoom. Is that correct? And is that appropriate?
Yes, and yes.
Why?
Because we said they could.
Okay,
Well, we
just
said any
seems-
border committee could.
Well, and I guess it's
Okay.
it's not that they're only meeting via Zoom, that we've had a couple of actually in-person meetings. The last two have been in person. But we've also had the Zoom option. So people have been participating via Zoom. So the last two meetings, the last 2 months have been hybrid. So I guess to clarify that statement.
I thought we talked about meetings should be in person unless somebody had a reason not to.
And it's my understanding that the people that are participating via Zoom have a reason not to.
So the whole committee has a reason not to?
No, we actually had several members participating in person the last 2 months.
Okay, so the next meeting is coming up this Wednesday and it says via Zoom until further notice,
Okay, well then that needs to be corrected.
please.
Yeah.
Okay,
And so Carol's point about the enterprise committee, and this is good because I don't remember who wrote this. It may have been me or Eric or the committee chair, but it says regular meetings are held monthly at the town office and at Zoom, and they're not. You gave us the conditions, and so we need to rewrite that so that it reflects
So which point was that again?
Applications.
That was the
enterprise.
enterprise, yes, okay.
Good catch,
Enterprise.
Carol. And I had also noted today to Eric that the road committee was not an updated one in here. I thought I had sent one. I rewrote one. I may not have sent it to Eric, so it needs to be included in our next read. And also, we had changed at some point in time, and it didn't happen to 5 different committees, that it says under the absences that it's 3 consecutive unexcused absences. So some committees descriptions say it and others don't. And so that needs to be cleaned up before we can finalize this. So we've got 6 or 7 things to fix.
Quite a few, yeah. And
Ralph,
the
go ahead,
agenda
buddy.
quickly, yeah.
We need to move on.
Well, page 9, assessors,
Mhm.
something near and dear to our
Ah,
hearts.
yes.
It seems to me that last graph, the assessor is responsible, et cetera, mirrors under authorization, the last graph, the assessor is responsible. I'm wondering if that is redundant and could be removed.
That was a copy and paste error. And actually,
I think the language is.
the last 2 paragraphs should be removed. Meeting should just have 1 sentence. That was me taking the information
Okay,
from the
so we
state
could-
website and putting it there and then putting it in the right spot
Yeah,
afterwards.
All right.
Nice. Are you
Yes,
catching
I
those,
highly
Eric?
recommend,
I am.
Okay,
you know, I always like to go through these things and just sort of give them a extra set of eyes. It happens for every writer, for people, you know, even when I taught English, it's hard to be perfect. So the best part about Eric is
Especially
he'll
when you're
take
talking
it.
about English.
That's right, exactly. And he will absolutely help you with it.
Couple
Ralph?
more points.
Yes,
I
sir.
did read this.
Yep, I know you did.
Thank you.
It really helped me sleep last night.
It will.
Page 11. I think we need to, I don't see a definition of CIP. I just see it in there, and perhaps it should say capital investment plan, and then you can go forward with CIP.
What was the first page reference where it shows that you were aware of?
Page 11.
Page
and
11.
it's, yes, it says they periodically meet with the select board to discuss revisions in the CIP, but it's not mentioned in
But
the
nobody
mission
really
statement.
knows
Yeah.
what the CIP is until we.
Okay, so we
publish
should,
it.
That's one that Bruce Burgoyne would have caught because he hates acronyms that aren't clear.
I hate it.
Yeah. that they have
So
to
I
call
did,
out.
I did
Don't
this
tell
solid,
NASA.
Bruce. Page 20, can I continue unless there? are
Buddy,
others?
Yep.
yes, do it now.
I'm-
or forever
I'm
send an
on-
email.
Well, no, there'll be others, won't there?
Yes.
The appointment, the chair's discretion to appoint alternates in the case of an absence of a regular voting member. It doesn't state a protocol as to that chair's discretion. And in some cases, you have as many as 3 alternates. I don't,
20, we're on the planning.
I don't
board.
see, it could present a difficulty if there isn't a protocol for a rotating schedule for appointment or naming voting members from the alternate pool. Right now, it just says the chair can do it. And
And that happened at the last meeting. I was listening.
So
and
I
what
would
you're
like-
saying is,
yeah,
which
we need to,
alternate do you choose?
right, if you have 3 and they're all in a queue waiting, there ought to be some sort of, especially if, God forbid, politics gets involved in these things. If it's chair discretion, there ought to be some protocol for making sure that the alternates get rotated through on some sort of a not for want of a better description, non-discriminatory basis.
Right.
But no, I agree. I don't think there's anything wrong with spelling that out. I think it
I think it's
also,
gonna be tricky.
it also
how you
keeps
do it.
people interested because then, on that board, there's always alternates called upon. So
Yeah,
it's a
and-
valid point.
And alternates should always attend regardless of whether or not they're going to vote to begin with, so that they are informed and up to speed on what's going on.
True that. Go ahead.
Can just be a rotating calendar, part of the calendar, alternate 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
January, February is 2, 3,
like the
1.
warrants.
March is
Yeah.
2, 2, 1. Just-
Love that. Are there any other details in that we want to share now?
I just want to say thank you because I requested this like at the beginning of October, that you guys read this with an eye towards, is it correct? Does it work for Reed Field? Is this the right way to proceed? And you folks have actually done that, and I'm really thankful and appreciative.
Well, thank you for wading through the mud. to
Well,
do
it's
it.
a lot. And I think it also, part of our board, this does align with the board goals of continually updating the documents and governing documents and things like that for the town. Believe it or not, we're not always going to be here. So it's nice to be able to leave a way that folks understand, make sure folks understand how these boards and commissions, which I think are pretty important, go along.
Could I borrow 5 seconds, Dennis?
You better.
I also want to point out that the last page in this is a new appendix that we've included, which is the meeting schedule for the boards, committees, and commissions. This shows a 5-week schedule for those months when we do potentially have a 5th week, and shows when their meetings are scheduled, and also when their Zoom, what their Zoom classification is. This is really important to avoid conflicts. And so this will be going out to the committee chairs, and it's just a tool to help everybody know what's going on and when, to avoid conflict, because we've had a little bit of that with people, with things being chaos over the past 2 years. And so we're trying to finally get that together. So I just wanted to point that out.
I think that's great. I have seen this earlier this week. I would suggest that we put a date on this as of November, whenever we approve it. So people looking at this 3 years from now go, why have we always been meeting on Tuesdays? We always meet on Thursdays.
That's right. That's right.
Great, thanks.
All right.
And
Anything
it's
else?
color coded, Dennis.
Listen, it's just helpful. It's just helpful. Thank you very much. We move now to item 22062, the Reed Field Fairgrounds Workshop Review and Ball Field Update. We have 10 minutes set aside for this, but perhaps we could.
Yeah, I'll just give a quick update.
Thank you.
I've spoken since that workshop with a number of folks, both on the Conservation Commission and Recreation. I think that we've got a pretty clear direction. The rec board is moving and working to continue to develop their thoughts on the ball field, which is one of the many uses proposed for the fairgrounds. And they'll be discussing that actively and hopefully quickly with the Conservation Commission. Everybody felt that there was some very good discussion and good information. And I think that we have a process to go forward that will be fair. And, there are some competing interests. And I think that we've taken a very good step towards showing what those are and finding a way to move forward where we're going to have outcomes that not everybody, might not be happy with, but we have a process that it shows that we're doing our best to balance things. It might be that it stays as open field. It might be that we have a ball field there, but the discussion's happening. So again, I want to thank the board for entertaining that effort. Thank the Conservation Commission for being a part of requesting it, and Rec and the Trails and the other committees, Age Friendly, for being a part of that discussion. So we're headed the right direction. Thanks everybody for getting us going.
Excellent. Are we good?
Quick comment.
You go for it.
I want to go backwards to the last item. That little chart that you just showed us, the new color coded one. Can we ask that you send that out to the board committee and commission chairs now? Even though we're not publishing the whole document now?
I can send it tomorrow, yeah. Yeah,
I
by
mean,
now you
doesn't that
mean
make
tomorrow, right?
sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because people need to know which Zoom account to be on, and we had a problem with that this week in a meeting, so I
Yeah.
think that would be very useful.
I will get that out tomorrow.
Thanks.
Dennis probably have it on Facebook by now, but I'm
I'm
not that good.
already, I'm moving right along with that, right now, yes.
Is that on the town homepage?
Facebook page.
But can it be on the homepage?
It can be and will be, yeah. I'll be happy to put it out there.
Thanks.
Anything else? All right, we move to new business. The new business that we would like to finally get to, thank you for your patience, is item 22063. Consider accepting a $10,000 donation to the Reed Field Fire Department. 5 minutes, Eric, or shall we call the chief?
I'll give it a quick pass and then I'll ask Lee to come up. Basically, the fire department is awesome,
Well, yeah, we knew
but
that.
we all knew that.
We all knew.
But they
that.
had done
Shucks.
they responded to a call and they were recognized by a private company and by a private citizen or one of our residents for their service. And that's where we are right now. And Lee,
Company was ADT Alarm System Monitoring, which is
That's pretty great.
pretty great. And it actually was Richard, how do you pronounce his last name? Yeah. Beausoleil.
I'm trying to think back of close enough.
He's actually helped us write our EOP that we'll be discussing later. So it just is kind of full circle.
Well,
So
that's,
It
Oh,
says
yeah.
Bouley's,
Boulay, yeah.
Boulay,
Well,
Boulay,
it's Booley, yeah, Booley.
Booley.
Bouley.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
anything else?
No.
Jeez.
So
Thanks.
I'd like
That's
to
great,
say
huh?
congratulations to the fire department for doing a terrific job, which you would have done in any case. It's great that a company is willing to stand up and do that. And we have a letter here that said something about, I don't know, you wrote back to them what you thought you could use it for, and they seemed appreciative of knowing that.
Yeah.
And that's terrific.
It was awesome.
I
Go ahead,
would-
Eric.
With a grant of this size, it would be nice to have a select board vote to accept and to
No, it's.
utilize it for the building improvement
Sure.
as discussed in the email.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you.
I'll make a motion
Yep.
to accept the $10,000 check from ADT Company being presented to the Reed Field Fire Department to be utilized for the building project expenses. Is that the way to put it? Is that okay?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the $10,000 donation on behalf of the fire department. Is there other further discussion? Thank you. Thank you very much for
We need to
everything.
vote.
Yes, that was my
Oh, sorry.
discussion part. All in favor?
It's left.
Oh,
It's
no,
okay.
hush. All in favor. There we go. Excellent. Thank you very much. Our next item of new business, we move to item 22064. Consider the revised bylaws for the Reed Field Fire Department. We have 5 minutes set aside for this. The revised bylaws are in the packet. I would assume this will be another opportunity for Lee to come and speak to us.
Well, I'll
At the
start.
podium?
I asked Lee before the meeting, Lee, were there like revisions to this? Do we need to like see this? It would be helpful to know what might have changed. And Lee gave an awesome response and said he'd be happy to give it again on screen.
Absolutely. It's gone to the attorney a couple of times over the past couple of years on behalf of Eric, and we cleaned up a lot of just garbage language that was in it, and on her suggestion added section K, which basically says,
officers shall be physically able to safely perform the responsibilities of their respective positions and comply with all health and safety measures required by the chief or by general policy of the town of Reedfield or imposed by the state of Maine or the United States federal government.
That's hard.
I bet that had to do with COVID.
I bet it did.
That's good. I assume that's good. Is that good?
COVID's not good by any
I know,
means,
but I mean,
yeah.
having this in here. will
I
help you
think it
perform better.
lines, we try to keep that in line with the town stuff, because that is our policy, so.
It looks like there's been a lot of work done on this already, Lee. So is there any special thing that sticks out other than that that you'd like us to pay attention to?
I mean, Eric spent some time and cleaned a lot of the language up,
Yeah.
getting rid of, he can talk more on that.
Right.
I know it's been changed a zillion times, and it was nice to get it reformatted the way
And you
It
feel
looks
good
good.
about it?
it looks good now.
Yes, sir.
Well, then I'll make a motion to accept the Reedfield Fire Department bylaws that were approved in November of 2021 as presented.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the revised bylaws for the Reedfield Fire Department. Is there any further discussion on this?
I'd like to say something if I may.
Sure.
But you have to go
Oh,
to the podium.
yes, you do have to go to the podium. I'm sorry.
Be on camera?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's,
Yes, you do.
but we welcome you and thanks for standing up. We appreciate it.
Because we have hybrid meetings.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
And you can, if you don't mind, state your name. Doris.
no, I don't need my notebook. So my name is Trevor Robinson. I live in Reedfield. I've lived in Reedfield for the last four years or so, maybe. I've been in the fire service for almost 22 years. And I want to say that Mr. Mank has been a phenomenal chief. He's a great man that I have a lot of respect for. Even to this day, I still have a great deal of respect for him. Unfortunately, there's a topic that we have come to a disagreement with. I don't want to put people's names on here. I wish I had call numbers that I could put out to say that COVID has been a horrible thing. We all understand that. As a father of two, we've all had the conversations that, you know, what are we willing to sacrifice? What are we willing to do? For the last 18 months, I've stood by all the members of the Reedfield Fire Department, the members of the Lakes Region Mutual Aid, and stood by Lee as a good chief. Some things have changed to where this new policy has come into effect that I think it may have been in good intentions, but I feel personally that it is a great deal of concern and harm to the townspeople. That right now, I believe Reedfield stands to lose almost 10 firefighters, and 7 of those 10 firefighters are SCBA certified, because at this time, for whether their personal beliefs or whatever their reasoning is, they have opted not to go and take shots. I personally believe that's an individual's choice. I don't care either way, which way you go. I just think that there are maybe some other steps that could be taken with the town to say, hey, if these individuals don't want to take that shot, we don't provide any EMS service, but if we were called to a, say, a medical assist where once an ambulance needed some assistance, that may be a call that as that you individuals don't respond to that. And I think people would respect that. If there was vehicle accidents where there needed to be some close contact, that those firefighters maybe take a different role, because I don't think we can afford to lose any one member, period. I think we need everybody that we can retain. And I think it's Ralph, I tried to jot down what you said about everybody that's willing and able, you know, we should keep them able to participate, even if they're stand on the other side of the line. I think that that's something that should be considered. And I don't really know how to go forward with it, but I think that we're in pretty much a crisis mode across the country where we stand to lose so many firefighters and first responders, that this is near and dear to my heart. As a kid, I lost my house to a house fire, so I'm pretty passionate about it. And like I said, with 22 years, I'd really like to continue to give back to the town of Reedfield.
Yeah.
We sacrificed for the last 18 months, so is there a compromise that we can make to continue?
And what is your name again? You have to, I'm writing it down. I'm sorry.
Trevor Robinson.
All right. Well, we have a motion on the floor. Thank you very much. We actually,
Does Joel want to speak as well?
yeah,
Sorry.
did you? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yep. Did you just introduce yourself? I'm sorry.
Sure. Yep. Good evening. My name is Joel Parker. And I'm also here to speak about the changes to the bylaws and some of the changes to our fire department. Again, I can't say it any more eloquently than what Trevor just did. I have a great deal of respect for both of these men that I serve with on the fire department, with Chief Mank and also Captain Robinson here. He's, like I said, 22 years of fire experience. Either one of these men could tell me to go into a burning building and I would trust their judgment, and I'd go in there with them with a fire hose and fight a fire. But just based on this unknowns about this vaccine, you know, some people have been unwilling to take a chance on their health. Like Trevor said, I believe it's everyone's responsibility for their own personal health to decide if they need the vaccine or not. And instead, with our new fire department policy went into effect on October 1st, all firefighters are required to have that vaccine. If they don't have it, then they no longer responding, and they're now on administrative leave. And the way the memorandum was written to us, if we don't conform by the end of this year, then we may be just removed from the roster. And as Trevor pointed out, as people have been looking around all the surrounding communities, Lakeside, you know, Lake Region Mutual Aid, towns are hurting for firefighters. They're hurting for first responders. They're hurting for the police departments. And I think this is the way we're limiting the amount of firefighters that can be directly here on Reed Field or any other fire department is going to lead to crisis, like Trevor said, or some type of chaos. You've already heard about the fire in Paris. The 5-year-old child died because there wasn't possibly enough responders to get in that building to pull the person out. It's not like the mom was able to bring out her 2 infant children on her own. I don't know if it was a direct effect of not having enough first responders to go into that building and back up the team, you know, whoever was fighting that fire and trying to rescue people that were trapped inside. But I can't imagine how I'd feel if we had a similar fire in Reed Field or any of the surrounding towns. And the fact that we maybe not be able to rescue somebody because of the fact there's not enough firefighters to respond. That's my take on it.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
We're in discussion.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if this is it a local mandate or part of the governor's mandate, or where is this coming from?
So I can start to answer that. We might need a little bit more clarification, but I think I can answer it. So what the board is considering is changes to the bylaws. Those reference policies that are adopted by the fire department. Throughout COVID, we've been working, the town manager, myself, and Lee, our health officer, whoever has been involved, the select board's been very active in trying to figure out how best to proceed with vaccinations for staff, vaccinations for volunteers. And so the policy that they're referencing isn't what's on the docket tonight per se. What we have is a broad authority. I will say, however, the fire chief already has broad authority to make decisions that are in the best interest of the department. We follow the chain of command very closely. And these gentlemen have expressed that pretty clearly. They respect and appreciate what Lee does. But throughout the course of the pandemic, we did discuss what to do, how to move forward, how to keep our residents and our firefighters safe. And so we did develop a policy in consultation with the town attorney that reflects what the chief and what and I believe what the select board at the time feel is the best approach to keeping our residents and our firefighters safe. And that is mandatory vaccination, because we're too small to do things like pool testing or three times a week testing, stuff like that. And I would feel terrible if we responded to a call and an 85-year-old woman died because of COVID infection. So there's two sides to all of this, and I don't want to get too far into the debate about anything nationally or anything like that, but locally, this has been discussed and reviewed and visited, and again reviewed with the town attorney. And I think that it's difficult. We're in a position where we have volunteers that care deeply about their communities, and that's obvious. They wouldn't be here if they didn't. But I always try to look at volunteerism as doing the best you can for somebody else. And it's hard to put aside your own personal needs sometimes when you're volunteering, but I think this is one of those cases, and it's reflected in the policy, where we need to put the needs of the public ahead of the needs of our volunteers. And that's a hard thing to do.
Before Ralph, I'll entertain a
Yeah.
motion.
I'll make a motion, and please bear with me because of what's left on the agenda, to extend the meeting for 30 minutes until 8:30.
I second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of extending yeah.
I knew this.
We don't have to use it all.
Yeah, no. No, this is good. This is a good discussion and we appreciate it. Ralph, you're up next. You guys have.
I'm not sure we have a clear path tonight. I just want to say that I do support the vaccination policy, but we also have to be respectful of individual members' concerns and hopefully accommodate their willingness to serve. The one thing that I heard in the course of this discussion, and I'm not 100% up to speed, at some point this will sort itself out. But as some sort of a mitigating factor, do folks who aren't vaccinated and for whatever reason choose not to be, why do they have to be taken off the roster?
And still, that goes back to Carol's question, under what level of authority did this come from?
Right now, they're not being removed from the roster. They're off the responding roster, just like they are if they don't participate in BLS stuff.
Right.
So they're not on the active call roster. They are on the roster of being a Reed Field member, fire department member. We've gone way out to the end of the year, which is way above any other mandate or requirement, hoping things will shake themselves out, hoping COVID will change directions. The problem is COVID doesn't seem to change directions. There's 260 people in the hospital today. We've got what, 2,600 people in Reed Field. So it's everything. It's keeping the volunteers safe and it's keeping the members of the community safe, whether it be in Reed Field, Mount Vernon, Wayne, Fayette, Vienna.
And so I'm still waiting to hear what Carol's answer, the answer to Carol's question is this, because I think it helps us to make a better decision. Is this because it's a federal mandate? Is it a governor of state of Maine mandate? Or is this just strictly the town of Reed Field has made this decision?
This is more the town of Reed Field has made this decision to keep the firefighters safe.
Okay, so I've been reading, I know they came out with a revised set of vaccine mandate instructions or requirements recently, like in the last few days. And I think they said that emergency medical monitors could have something along the lines of what one of these gentlemen suggested, that those who weren't vaccinated for whatever reason could perform certain duties, but not others. And is that something, so since this is a town level policy.
It
at this
is,
point,
but you've got,
something we could consider
you've got,
or not.
you've got 2/3 of the department have been vaccinated, a third haven't. The 2/3 that are there, they're single parents, the older people. So I've racked my head. How can I keep everybody, participating and keep everybody safe? And I haven't come up with a good plan for it, to where, if we test, are we going to test every other day? That's going to be the only way to really keep it out of the Reed Field Fire Department.
So your concern, I'm just trying to reiterate here, is that on the department level, you can't really keep people separated to maintain a safety protocol for the department.
It would be very difficult. Because these guys are firefighters. If there's an accident, somebody needs help, they're not gonna think, geez, am I vaccinated? Do I need my mask on? You know, they're gonna act instinctively.
Actually, fire department latest policy that I had.
I
Take the
think, just sorry,
podium,
we have to
please. Yeah,
swap
podium,
positions.
please. Yeah, yeah.
The last email that I received regarding departmental policies and things of that nature was that it didn't matter whether you were vaccinated or whether you were unvaccinated. Every refill firefighter wore face masks on every call, every trainings, in and out of the station. When returning from calls, a bleach and water solution, whatever the solution is that we have at the station, all the trucks were wiped down and cleaned down. I mean, people are more than willing to go above and beyond to keep everybody safe. None of us want to get anybody else sick by any means. So that was the latest policy that I received a while back.
Thank you.
All right, Lee, if you'd like to, and then I think we need to go ahead and have some action on this, or at least wrap up our discussion, because we could sit here all night and talk about this, but what we're talking about are the new revised bylaws that Lee has brought us. Lee, go ahead.
That, I think I've said all I have to
Okay.
say.
Thank you.
Can I make one tiny point?
You certainly
We
can.
can continue.
You can
discussion.
continue the discussion. I want everyone to know where we are.
So this is just hard, very tough. I think we all have worked beside people that are vaccinated or unvaccinated. There also has to be some honesty that if you don't feel well, you just don't leave your home, you don't show up to work, you don't perform your duties. On the medical side, there is a vaccine. I think a lot of the unknown is this mRNA technology. There is the Johnson & Johnson that is a normal vaccine. So it kind of removes that mystique of what's this mRNA technique. And that's just the one vaccine. So there is that. I don't know if that's a happy medium for some people that maybe don't trust the new vaccines. I don't know, it's tough. Just my 2 cents.
Yep.
I just want to say, Chief Mank and Trevor also, firefighter Trevor also made great points. I just want to say just 2 things that kind of coincide with that. Before there was a vaccine, firefighters were still going out there. We're risking our lives, just like all the other first responders out there, all the EMTs, the paramedics, the cops, the firefighters, everywhere else. We're out there risking our lives. There's probably some, the civilians that we're working with were risking their lives too. But before there was a vaccine, we took precautions. We wore masks. We, like Trevor said, we disinfected the trucks, our equipment. And we took precautions. So, yeah, I don't know what's changed between, we do have a vaccine now, but that's obviously, I'm not going to discuss this all night, but we got breakthrough cases. The vaccine isn't 100% solution. You could have a vaccine, you get COVID, you think it's the sniffles, and you're walking around and you're spreading it around for 2 weeks before you realize, oh shoot, now I got COVID. I'm getting tested because I thought I had the vaccine and now I'm safe, but I'm not. And the last thing is, if you approve the bylaws as Chief Max proposed them, you're not gonna get any new firefighters or aren't willing to get the vaccine. And right now, I listen to like fire calls on the radio that we have, and we've got like 2 or 3, 4 or 5, maybe, I don't know, Chief Mack can comment on this more, people from our fire department. When we were proud, we used to have like 15 or 20 members of our department show up to fire calls. Now, because of the whole vaccine mandate, I don't know how many the numbers is, but it sounds like a very short few people from our department responding to calls. We're relying more on Lakes Region Mutual Aid responders to come that are vaccinated, I guess, that are willing, that are able and qualified to respond to calls. But the second you put this into place, you're limiting even more the amount of the people that are going to be qualified to be part of the Reedfield Volunteer Fire Department. That's my last comment.
Ralph?
I would parse this section K, which seems to be the stumbling block here. It doesn't sound to me like it's a black and white issue here. I think there's still some discretion on the part of the chief to make management decisions on a case-by-case basis. It basically says, of their respective positions and comply with all health and safety measures required by the chief or by the general policy of the town of Reedfield or imposed by the state of Maine or the United States federal government. That's not a blanket statement that says you want to be on the fire ground, you got to be vaccinated. It says it's a chief's call and a management decision on a case-by-case basis as needs arise. It's a moving target. And it's going to be for probably the next year or so. So I don't see that this necessarily restricts you guys from some level of service at the chief's and the officer's discretion if you choose not to be vaccinated. I don't think it's an either or here. And I like the fact that at least it defines for public health and safety purposes an overriding protocol to drive fire company and town policy. So I don't see it as black and white. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think that's a good interpretation of what's written there. But what I do see as black and white is what I've heard from both the chief, the town manager, and the two members that are here, which is that there has been a policy made and there have been emails sent, and there was a date of October 1st, and there's another date coming up of December 31st that state everyone will be vaccinated. So I think what Ralph is saying is that this isn't saying specifically that people have to be vaccinated or people have to have sunscreen on or whatever. It's just that it's at the determination of the fire chief and other bodies who make rules, not what those rules are. And so I think the other issue that has come forth tonight, very respectfully, is this the best decision the chief could have made for the department? And I do see those as kind of two separate things.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure that it's this board's position to be involved in that management decision, because I don't know what our actual authority is. To town employees, we have no authority. That's the town manager. Our only authority is over the town manager. So I don't know that this board can actually weigh in on the fire department members. Eric?
You could, but I'd ask you, I guess, to not wait in. Because I think that, again, keeping this chain of command, respecting the role of the chief, towns that have problems between relationships with the fire chief and the select board and the town manager often don't respect that chain of command, or at least it can get trampled on a little bit. So I think that the best policy is to allow, as you said, this to work out with the chief and myself. If you really feel there's a need to get involved, we could talk about how to do that in a constructive way. And I appreciate, that possibility. But I think that the chief's made a good decision and I support it.
Is there anything else?
Lee's back at the podium.
I'll just follow up a little bit.
Please do. Yes, sir.
Not only our vaccination, it's a whole circle of what goes on. We have a lot of outside training people come in. We rely a lot on Southern Community College, which is home to Maine fire training. So there's that piece of the pie where if you're not vaccinated, you might not be able to go to some other training. I mean, so it's a whole big picture, just not here in Reedfield. It's everything that goes with it.
Thank you, Lee.
I guess I just had a question if other fire departments are taking that same step. Not that it matters
imagine.
on a local basis, but just curious.
Lee, podium, please.
Oh, sorry.
I'll
Yeah,
say it to
Lee.
everybody.
Sorry, buddy. Sorry. Yeah.
We don't-
Sorry. Yeah.
Getting your steps in.
Getting your steps in.
It's tough being famous.
I'll just stay up here.
Yeah, just do it. Yeah.
Go to-
Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
school.
Just step back.
Lakes Region Mutual Aid consists of Reedfield, Mount Vernon, Vienna, Wayne, and Fayette, 5 towns. There was a meeting. Everybody's struggling, just like we are. Everybody has adopted the same thing. Fayette's a little bit, they kind of took it a little hybrid because they work with Livermore Falls more than we do. So there's a little bit of difference there. But as far as I know, Vienna, Mount Vernon, Wayne, and us are all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'll also add that statewide, I mean, we're not a professional fire department in the sense that we don't have full-time, cycle, paid staff that are on call 24 hours a day for 2 days straight, or however that works. But a lot of the professional departments in the state of Maine I think all of them actually have a vaccine mandate. And the firefighters union has said they're not going to defend folks that have to leave because they're not getting vaccinated. And that's an unfortunate thing, but it's a position that professional departments have taken to protect their firefighters and the folks they serve. So we're certainly not alone in this. And it is, as everybody said, an excruciating position to be in, but we're not alone in it.
So would this end? Like when the danger, when the hospitalization, that's the hard part, is how far does it go?
I think, 1918, 1919, Spanish flu was a coronavirus, I believe, and it just disappeared.
And so would this restriction be lifted once the virus settles out into society?
Chances are, it's all new for everybody. We're trying to do what's right, for the volunteers, the firefighters. It just is,
Sean?
it's crazy.
I feel like this is not our role, and I feel like we need to get back to voting on the piece that's in front of us, and that we leave Chief Mink and Eric to deal with this policy internally as voted on this.
I couldn't agree more. Do you guys have anything else? Could we possibly add anything to this discussion that hasn't already been said? I don't think so. I also think that knowing that I trust Lee. Anything else?
It's heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It has been moved, seconded. We were in discussion to accept the bylaws as presented for the fire department. All in favor? And all opposed? Excellent. The motion carries. The next item we have is item 22-065. Consider a schedule for emergency operations plan revision and tabletop exercise.
I'd like to make a motion that we postpone this to our next meeting agenda, if that's all right.
I would second that. Yeah. It's been moved and seconded to table item 22-065 to the December meeting. Consider a schedule for emergency operations plan. All in favor? Thank you very much. 22-066 has to develop select board goals for the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. 5 minutes has been assigned to this. Eric?
Yeah, so every year, the select board leads the process of the budget by setting goals. Typically, those goals are closely aligned with the goals established during your retreat. But not always. Things change, especially this year. We've had some big changes since June, since July. Big changes in staffing, changes in how the economy is looking, changes in COVID and the status thereof. So what I'm looking for, and I think the budget committee and all of the boards and committees that participate in the budget process, the department heads, is some direction from the select board on what your primary goals and focus are going to be for the budget process. So that's the intent of the discussion. And it's always helpful to have good, clear goals. I can't tell you how many times I'm at a meeting and the budget committee or a department head or one of our many boards and committees references what does the select board think about this? What are the goals that we're trying to align with? So not always the case. Sometimes they say, well, we don't want to listen to those folks, but for the most part, there's some continuity there and we work to maintain that. So give me your best and brightest. Yeah.
Sean, I know we've already had this discussion, but I just want to drive it home that we look at how our wages across the board for staff in town and how we can improve that, how we can be competitive with some of the jobs that we do offer, and especially when we look at the positions we have to fill.
Can I expand on that?
Absolutely, Kathy.
Cool. I think I would like to see us ask the budget committee to make those changes that we approved at maybe our last meeting or a couple meetings ago, to make them part of the ongoing town budget and not be funded through ARPA, so that it makes a statement that we as a town support the employees in this manner. And so it's not something they have to worry about negotiating year to year. The ARPA funds can be used for other things. So, well, really only for broadband, but, and along with, well, that's good.
Thank you. Ralph?
Deeper into the weeds, the salary issue is of course out there in front. But I'm not sure that our staffing plans, given what the town needs to have done and commensurate staff to do it, is adequate. And I think we need a review of what it is, our mission is, and do we have the appropriate staff to accomplish those goals?
Right.
You can have a couple of maintenance people and a to-do list that's 20 miles long and it's never going to get done. Do we have sufficient staffing? And part of that review, Eric mentioned briefly too, looking for alternative partners, maybe on regional cooperative basis, to meet those, as opposed to taking on more staff. But my impression after looking at this for 2.5 years is mile wide, inch deep, we don't have enough people to do the job. And it has manifested itself time after time after time across all of the areas of responsibility that the town has to deal with. So maybe it's time that we take a comprehensive look at that, and the budget committee should touch that. Have their fingerprints all over it.
I absolutely agree. That's where I was headed next. I think we need to look at the level of service we're providing and see if we can, I think our level of service provided needs to be aligned more closely with the staff that we have available. And right now, if we can't hire enough staff, we need to reconsider what our level of service is. There's several ways we could do that. We could hire somebody. I can't hire anybody right now, it appears.
For anything.
For anything, anywhere, which is just mesmerizing to me. But we may be able to outsource some things that could be done through contracted services. There may be companies who are willing to do some of our activities. I was speaking with Eric earlier today of the maintenance position, the one that Ben currently has. A third to a half of that is spent on cemetery maintenance. And so that might be a way, if we can't hire an employee, is to look at having someone else do cemetery maintenance. We talked at the transfer station, on the solid waste committee. I think just at our last meeting, Al was there. We really need to have a full-time person there seasonally, in addition to the current staff. And we've talked about having another employee townwide that would do different jobs, maybe in different seasons or on different days. And I also think we need administrative help for Eric as the town manager, especially with the vote on broadband. He's going to be spending more time working on that, and maybe a possibility if you're going to be, since we're going to be hiring for the town collection clerk position, is expanding that from 32 to 40 hours. We might even get them a larger pool of applicants who would be interested if it was 40 hours with full benefits, so.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, Ralph, I was looking at you.
Well, to Catherine's point, I think the jumping off point is, let's take an expansive view of defining the need. What is it if money were no object? And let's outline all the services that would be within the town's range and obligation to provide. Once you define that, then you can look at how you staff it. But without defining the service needs at the outset, you're going to be plugging people into holes where you don't really know if they're going to fit long-term. I think we need a comprehensive review of what it is the service goals of the town are and will be for maybe the next 5 years out. Kind of like almost like a capital plan, only this will be a labor plan. And what is it? And then the budget committee and the select board touches and says, well, we don't want to spend this, we agree this. And then you tailor the staffing needs to fit that service agenda. And then we're not going to find ourselves, if it comes to fruition that way, we're not going to find ourselves in this mix and match mode that we have been in probably for the last 3 years, to my knowledge. We're always a day late and a dollar short. And I think that's because we don't have a comprehensive plan in terms of service needs and staffing goals to meet those needs and how it fits in a budget parameter.
Could be something to talk about. Sean?
I'll just drive home that staffing piece one last time. And talking about facilities, when we talk about, the beach being open to the public now, and what does that mean? How is that area needing work? What do the grounds need there? What's the equipment needs there? The programming needs that have been talked about, thrown out. What finances might be needed to assist with that?
I like the idea of the comprehensive look at it.
Yeah.
Taking into account all the specifics that we've mentioned. And then thinking outside of the box. I know a lot of businesses can't hire people either, but there may be businesses who are still looking for contracts. And so I think we need to also look at that as an alternative solution. It will probably cost more. And then that's something that the townspeople will have to weigh in on, is what level of service do they want for the given cost? If you want to keep the same level of service, undoubtedly costs are going to go up. That's just the world we're in currently. And if we don't want to increase the budget, then we have to understand that we're going to have a lower level of service.
All right. Thank you very much. Do we need?
I have another one,
Oh, yeah.
and that is that we implement the broadband improvements as directed by the town meeting vote on 11/2/21. That is our main duty and obligation as select board members, is to implement the things passed at town meeting. And my suggestion would be that we use ARPA funds for that. And not use them for employee wages, that we do employee wages through the budget, as I suggested earlier, just my suggestion, but. And town meeting approved doing the broadband with the funding. So that's something the budget committee can mull over, the best way to finance that, because we typically try not to get involved in that discussion, but leave it up to them, so.
Any more?
3 minutes, Dennis.
Yep. Catherine? Everybody good? All right. We are going to move to item 22067, consider a revised freedom of access policy. We have 3 minutes for this.
This is the second reading, is that right, Eric?
This is the second reading, and it incorporates the, I think there was just, we had a correction about the time.
30 days.
30 days, how long it took for training. We've been encouraging folks to do that, but we'd like to make it more pronounced how important it is for folks to get that training. because public information, public access to information is something that's very important in our community, and it can be nothing but a headache for everybody involved, including the requesters, when boards and committees are not necessarily aware of the requirements they have under freedom of access. So.
And again, this is freedom of access for boards, committees, just to update and let people know who are on the boards and committees what exactly is public access.
Well, it's also it is that, but it's also the entire act in terms of describing to the public how you go about making a request, the timeliness, the cost, et cetera. I had one question and I can't find it in this, 147 pages. But I did write down, it was number 14, training. And my question was, should appointees be specifically mentioned? Right now it says the FOA officer and elected officials.
Page 125
Thank you.
of the packet.
Yes.
Of the select board packet.
Yeah.
And there was, which one was it that you said?
Number 14.
14.
I'm just wondering, because we put it in the board committee and commission guide that all appointees have to receive the training. And so in 14.
Are you talking 14A, Catherine?
It
Mhm.
must be,
Yeah,
I think
right
we,
there.
because we struck out specifics and put other specified municipal officials. But I think we should state that includes appointed people
And appointees.
and appointees.
Yeah, I like
So
that.
it's not just elected or
So-
hired.
Elected and appointed officials. I can, yeah,
Yeah. I thought the rest of it looked great.
okay, 14A, elected and appointed.
Good point.
Way to go, Sean. Okay, 30
I would
seconds. are we
entertain
good?
a motion to, yes, I don't think there's anything else.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you very much. Wonderful. Thank you. Gavel, there we go. Thank you.